if you're not nicer to me, I'm going to hit you with this pancake. Like, people don't believe me when I tell them that that's a real word. The noun slowly and hope that it comes to me by the end, right? Hello, I am Jenna, and welcome back to Amber and Linen, my channel by an American me about Lithuania. So as you can tell, my credentials are very limited, but I am of Lithuanian descent, so I'm pulling the bloodline card here. Anyway, today's video is about learning Lithuanian, which is something that I know a lot about. And to be clear, I know a lot about the learning process, not about the Lithuanian language per se. I've struggled through it a lot. And specifically, we're going to talk about the 5 things you need to know before you learn Lithuanian. First of all, don't. I'm kidding mostly. But if you are a monolinguist English speaker like me and like many Americans, it's going to be a challenge. So that's number 1. But number 2, it actually is that it's a really fun language to say. And I'll give you an example, because the 3 of the most common words in Lithuanian are sveki, iki, and ačiū. I kid you not, one of their words is a sneeze. The first time I went to Lithuania, I was ready for this. I knew what ačiū was, if almost nothing else, right? But you're not prepared until you go there and people appear to just be sneezing at each other everywhere, on the bus, in the convenience store, as you're getting off the airport. And this was a few years ago, the first time I went. Obviously, in COVID times, the appearance of sneezing at each other takes on a whole new terrifying meaning, but you do quickly get used to it, and it's still just really fun to say, though. Ačiū, like, people don't believe me when I tell them that that's a real word. Another fun thing is that they roll their R's. So for example, a common word where is K-U-R in Lithuanian, and they'll often pronounce it kur, kur. So you get to roll your R's a little bit, which I always think is fun, because in English, you don't get to do that. But there's no hard R sounds like in Spanish, for example. So if you can't roll your R's, not the end of the world. Number 3 is that it's like, if you're interested in languages, or if you know any other languages in the Indo-European family, then you will at least know a few things, or a few things will sound or seem familiar to you. Because Lithuanian is like a super old language, and it's one of the languages they think that has changed the least, and they actually think that it's relatively close to the Proto-Indo-European language, which is just the name for the language that researchers think all of the European and Indian families came from. So like, there are all these words in Lithuanian that sound like Sanskrit words, because they're both just old languages, and they think they all derived from this one OG language. So if you're at all interested in that, it's so interesting. And if you know any other languages, like I said, you'll hear things and you'll be like, oh, that makes sense to me because I know this other language. And I had this really weird experience recently where I was watching a Norwegian movie in English subtitles. Of course, I do not speak Norwegian, but there were a few words that I swear sounded like the Lithuanian words, right? Because I was trying to match the sounds with the words. I could have been wrong, but there were definitely some similarities. And you look at them on the map, they're not that far away from each other, Norway and Lithuania. So it's possible, even though I know they're not closely related languages. Number 4, okay. This is what makes Lithuanian so, I was gonna say difficult, but challenging. Let's say challenging, okay? That's a better sounding word. And it's that they conjugate their nouns. If you took high school anything, you know that conjugating means that you change a verb based on the subject, right? So to be in English, you conjugate to be to I am, you are, they are, we are. So in Lithuanian, not only do you have to conjugate your verbs, but you have to conjugate your nouns. I kid you not. And this is called cases. So you may be familiar with this. I know some other languages have some cases, but Lithuanian has seven cases. So there are 7 different endings to each noun that you have to memorize. And they give you, when you learn Lithuanian, they give you this huge table. And at first I was like, I don't know what this is or how I use this. It took me like a month to figure out what they were trying to say to me. And I'll give you an example, because with pancakes, one of my favorite words, also one of my favorite breakfast foods, pancakes. I'll give you a few sentences, right? So that pancake looks really good. Please give me a pancake. If you're not nicer to me, I'm going to hit you with this pancake. Put some chocolate chips in my pancake. All of those pancakes would be different words, slightly different words, because they don't use, in Lithuanian, they don't use any of the little, or they use much fewer of the little connecting words. We call them conjunctions in English, right? So to, with, for, they use fewer of those, and they get the meaning of the word by changing the ending of the noun. And it's nuts from someone who's never learned any kind of cases to then be told there are 7 of them and you have to memorize them all. And there's different, right? It's not like every noun follows the same pattern. There's like 6 or 7 patterns also. And there's so much memorization involved. And then there's a few, of course, irregular ones that don't even follow the pattern that they're supposed to follow. So just be ready for a challenge. I'm not saying don't do it, but just be prepared, because it's a challenge, like I said. And sometimes it makes you feel crazy, because I've learned Spanish before. I'm not fluent, but I took a lot of years of Spanish, and it's nothing like learning Lithuanian, in my opinion. It's just so much. There's so many more things you have to keep in mind, because the structure of the language is so different. And so if you've watched The Office and you're a fan, you probably know Michael Scott. And he has this quote where he says, sometimes I start a sentence and I don't know where it's going. I just hope I'll find it by the end. And that's how you feel when you're learning Lithuanian, because you have to change the endings of all the nouns, right? All those pancakes would have different endings. So in my examples, sometimes I like longer nouns. So for example, pavadinimas is how you say name. And so if my Lithuanian teacher is asking me to say something, I will be like, okay, and I just start saying the noun slowly and hope that it comes to me by the end, right? So like, aš nežinau tavo pavadinimo. And you're like, I hope that was right. I'm not even sure that's one of the options, right? Sometimes you're picking something and you're like, oh wait, that noun never has that ending, because like I said, there's different groups. So crazy, it's crazy. But I will say the flip side of that is it's like super rewarding when you say the right thing the right way. You feel like this huge sense of accomplishment. And the last one is also fun, because Lithuanians love love in when you know a little bit of Lithuanian. And like sometimes to the extent that they're like in shock almost. And I'm on a I'm talking mostly about people I meet in person when I go visit, but also I'm on a few language learning apps where you can practice with someone who lives in that country, right? So I'm learning Lithuanian, so I'll find Lithuanians to practice with, and you're just usually texting, or you can do voice notes to each other. And I kid you not, the first question they always ask me is, why are you learning Lithuanian? And it's almost like, what? Like, why are you wasting your time? Because there's something like 3 million people in Lithuania, and I bet half of those speak English like to a decent, if not really good degree, because they learn nowadays, right? Post Soviet Union, I'm pretty sure all Lithuanian children learn English very early. And but they like, you could just see them, like when you meet someone in person and they're Lithuanian and you can like say a few things to them, you can just see them being like confused and like super happy, like you're taking time to learn like my language, like from this little corner of the world. So I think it's fun, and if you're interested in going there, living there, visiting there, or you're just interested in the language structure because it's so important to the evolution of so many world languages that we still speak, if you're interested in reconnecting with your heritage, I think it's still worth learning. And if you like languages, certainly go for it. You will learn. There's a lot to learn there. In fact, I saw a list one time, which I now believe, a list that ranked languages, and it said that Lithuanian was the hardest language to learn that uses our alphabet. So anyway, learn it, don't learn it. Thank you for watching, and Icky.